Why are there so many shows starring Muppets and dozens of movies too? They said they'd watch everyone and they mean it. It's something that they've got to do. So now they've pledged you a lifelong commitment. The Muppets, Matthew and Sam.
Welcome to Kermitment, the podcast where two friends have vowed to watch all things Muppets. I'm Matthew Gatos.
And I'm Sam Schultz.
And this week we watched the Perry Como Winter Show, which aired on December 4th, 1972. And we also watched some TV appearances, one on the Flip Wilson Show from September 14th, 1972, and The Electric Company, which was October 23rd, 1972. And yeah, we're wrapping up 1972 with this week. And we just both got back from vacation, taking it easy. We took a week off from recording. The audience won't know that because we're not skipping a week of uploads. But how did it feel to take a break from watching some Muppet stuff?
It felt weirder to come back and to be like, okay, ready to really sink my teeth into some Muppet stuff. And then for it to be this particular batch of Muppet stuff. And at the end of it, I was just like, oh, okay.
This is a weird time for the Muppets. I think 1972 and 73 is a very light period of time. We're going to be talking about this again over the next couple of episodes, but this is a time where Jim Henson is focused on this Broadway idea he has, where he really wants to, he thinks the next big step for the Muppets is a Broadway show. And he was really, like, this idea kind of kicked off after doing the Nancy Sinatra Vegas show. And he's pushing that really hard right now. He'll push that really hard in 72 and 73. In later 1972, he is meeting with Larry Gelbart about writing the Broadway show. And Gelbart is the guy he will lose to MASH at a certain point, because Gelbart was like, I'm going to go write MASH and win a bunch of Emmys instead of writing your Broadway show. That might not ever happen. So again, that's one of those things that just never really got off the ground in Jim Henson's lifetime. The Muppets have gone on to do stage shows since then, but it was really the thing he was focused on right now. So we had a lot of Sesame Street going on with season 4 starting around this time as well. November 13th, 1972, season 4 started, which I found out in researching that we completely forgot a Gordon.
We did?
Yeah.
There's an intermediate Gordon?
There's an intermediate Gordon that in seasons 4 and 5, Hal Miller plays Gordon. He will only play him for the 2 seasons. We didn't even mention him last time. He didn't come up in the research we did in previous Gordons because we talked about Matt Robinson, Roscoe Orman, and we even talked about Garrett Saunders, who was the mysterious hidden Gordon from the pilots. But yeah, apparently in between Matt Robinson and Roscoe Orman, you have Hal Miller.
Oh.
Yeah, he was apparently like a Shakespearean stage actor before he signed up for Sesame Street and then quit Sesame Street because he wanted to go hit the big time in movies and TV. And from what I could see, that did not work, unfortunately.
Well.
He did not have many credits on anything that I could see. But the other big things about Sesame Street season 4 starting up is they had some new characters introduced, including the Count and Sam the Robot. This is also the season of Sesame Street where reporter Kermit is introduced. This is the first time they do Sesame Street Newsflash.
Is this Kermit's return to Sesame Street after his...
I think he was also in season 3.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he was only canceled for season 2.
Okay.
And yeah, at this point, like, we're going to do a deeper dive into the 70s era of Sesame Street later on. But season 4, it's still running strong. It's like in 48 countries, and they're starting to produce original shows for like Mexico and Brazil and Germany and all these places. So Sesame Street's still going really strong, which is, like, I think important to remember as we talk about all these other Muppet things, is that like
Bert and Ernie have a big record out.
Yeah, it's called Havin' Fun with Ernie and Bert. And they have the Clink Clank, which is the song that they performed in the Flip Wilson show appearance that we watched, is from that album.
Right. So they were on a promotional tour for their record.
Yeah. And the last thing that I think that's happening during this period of time, which I feel like is important to mention, is something that, again, didn't go anywhere, but was sort of another idea kicking around in Jim Henson's head, is that ABC was potentially interested in having a 5-minute nightly Muppet show, sort of similar to the, like, Sam and Friends.
Sam and Friends.
Yeah. And this was something that was like seemed like it was floated around, didn't really go much of anywhere, but Jim Henson seemed really excited about it and was like, oh, I know how to do this 5-minute nightly thing. Boom. And he wanted to have like this little late night show segment where Kermit was going to be like the host of a late night show, but then also do other like little sketches here and there. And the Country Trio Muppets were originally conceived for that idea. Like,
Okay.
I don't think they built the puppets fully for that idea because that idea really didn't go beyond the idea stage before ABC decided to pass on it. But the idea of the Country Trio band that we see in the Perry Como Winter Show was conceived for those 5-minute shows, which I think they were going to be called like the Rock Band or the Rock Trio. They weren't going to be the Country Trio. So they changed genres when they came over to the Perry Como Winter Show. Sam, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what we watched this week?
Perry Como was a singer and actor whose Wikipedia entry is too thorough and too boring for me to get any insight into what his whole thing was beyond how I know him, which is that he sang a lot of the best known versions of Christmas songs. Like, if you think of the song Home for the Holidays, that's Perry Como. If you think of the song It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas, that's Perry Como. So by the 70s, he was popular from like the 40s until the 70s-ish, I think. So in the 70s, he had narrowed down everything he was doing to just pretty much being on holiday specials, and this is one of them. So in it, he walks through what he says is a recreation of his hometown, and he meets a cast of crazy characters such as a grumpy Santa and a weird old chess-playing man who seems to be freezing to death that are all played by Art Carney, and he also hangs out with Joy Heatherton, who is a singer and dancer, and they sing a whole bunch of songs together. Eventually, the whole gang ends up at a mountaintop lodge that's just chock full of Muppets. The first time the Muppets appear is like 40 minutes into this thing or something like that. And the first Muppets we see are the Country Trio. Well, this is not the first Muppets we see. We see some weird nondescript Muppet at the very beginning. But the Country Trio, which are caricatures of Jim, Jerry Nelson, and Frank Oz, they make their television debut, and they're singing Jim Croce's Don't Mess Around with Jim for some reason. King Gosh Posh is the lodge's desk clerk, and he's really concerned that all the fun everybody's having is going to cause an avalanche. The lodge is on a mountain called Avalanche Mountain.
Seems like a poor choice.
Yeah, they shouldn't have built it there. And he has a point. They should be more quiet, please. So regardless of his warnings, everyone keeps singing and carrying on, and Art Carney keeps screaming even though everybody tells him not to. And the whole lodge is rumbling. And eventually they sing a huge song about being quiet, but they're being very loud while they're singing this song. And King Gosh Posh and Featherstone, who is here, the hotel's bellhop, sing like one final note that causes an avalanche, which I guess kills everybody because the special ends there. And then Perry Como seems to be in some kind of like heaven dimension.
Yeah, he's in a void.
He's in a void.
He also starts off the special in a void, and then like the town starts to appear on this set. But yeah, he does end it in a void, and he's just like, sometimes you can't go back to the way things used to be. And you're like,
yeah, because you kill everyone in an avalanche.
Yeah. It's like maybe he's like holodeck. Like this
that's
is.
What I was gonna. Yeah, the ghost of the town or something. The whole town, and every year on Christmas he appears with a grim warning, not to sing too loud.
He just can't seem to save them though. Every single year he goes back to this town, tries to save them from the avalanche, and he just can't figure out how to do it.
Oh, it's like Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
Maybe. That's the last leap he's got to do, but he just can't crack it. So we also watched a skit from the Electric Company, which I think, as we talked about before, was sort of a spin-off of Sesame Street, like a co-production, same children's television workshop company made it. But this show's goal was to teach older kids advanced reading skills. So in the skit that we watched, Big Bird drops in on Fargo North Decoder, a detective who specializes in decoding mixed-up messages. Also, I just got his name joke.
You just got that?
I just said it out loud. So Big Bird accidentally ripped up a note he was holding that had some special instructions on it, and he needs to figure out what it says. Fargo slaps the note in a note-fixing machine that he just has and helps him figure out that the note said, "Don't lose your way," but of course, Big Bird classic, loses his way, has lost his way already. But Fargo directs him to Sesame Street, and they both move on with their lives, I'd assume. And Fargo, I think, was like a reoccurring character, but I'm not super familiar with the Electric Company. And finally, we watched the last appearance of the Sesame Street Muppets on The Flip Wilson Show. This time, it was Bert and Ernie playing their song Clink Clank for Flip, presumably to promote, like we said, their new record, Having Fun with Ernie and Bert. And that was all we watched, right? Yeah. I kept feeling like I was doing something wrong. Like I wasn't watching enough stuff.
No, it was a light week. I think just to finish up 1972, there was not a ton to watch.
Right.
I think 1972 was just kind of a light year for the Muppets.
Yeah.
They had the Musicians of Bremen and then these TV appearances and the Perry Como show. And I think that's all they did, really, at least like in front of the camera. Obviously, they're shooting things, working on things behind the scenes probably. But yeah, this is kind of a light time.
It almost feels like if it was anybody else, this would have been like the end of his career or something. Like he would have had to move on to something else.
Yeah, it's interesting too that like to me, the Perry Como Winter Show felt like the closest thing to Our Place that we've watched again.
Oh, I was thinking the same exact thing this morning.
Like it definitely is more watchable than Our Place, but it felt like the Muppets were just inserted into this thing, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense for them to be there, and it didn't feel like...
it's not even interesting Muppets.
No, and it's just like, yeah, recycling King Gosh Posh and Featherstone, who have been, they've been trying to get off the ground since Tinker D to work in something, and they just, apparently, they can't find what those characters need to be, because like, I feel like at this point we've got Kermit in place, we've got Rolf in place. Like when they show up, they're pretty much the same versions of things as they have been recently. King Gosh Posh and Featherstone are just kind of used as like, we need some characters. We know how to do these ones well enough. Throw them out there.
It's also weird that Featherstone especially always has the same voice. Like he's the bellhop of this ski lodge in Vermont or something like that, but he still sounds like a fancy British man.
Yeah.
That seems like a very weird choice to me.
Whereas we still get the King Gosh Posh is always like the southern, angry southern Ralph is who Gosh Posh is.
Which works. I like King Gosh Posh. I think he works. But it maybe would have been better if Rolf was the proprietor of this hotel and Kermit was the bellhop. I don't know why they didn't just do that. Especially
because I feel like at this point they've acknowledged that Kermit is kind of like the face, because like he has narrated these other specials, the Muppet Musicians of Bremen. He's there just to be,
which is the same
Kermit.
year as this, right?
Yeah. And so it's like they know that he is sort of the face of the company a little bit, or at least he's the one who's out there the most. So yeah, it's interesting that they keep going back to these other characters. You did mention that there's a weird sort of random Muppet at the beginning of this when they're going through the credits at the beginning, introducing like, we've got Joey Heatherton, we've got Art Carney, and we've got the Muppets. There's like a drawing of a wreath that turns into like a Cookie Monster looking Muppet. And
that's what's happening there.
I think he's supposed to be like a wreath.
On there.
Yeah.
Yes,
but
that makes more sense.
It just seems like they were looking for like, we need a Muppet that just like is a Muppet. Like we just need a Muppet to represent all Muppets. And they chose this Cookie Monster looking guy who just sort of like eats his own eyeballs, and that's all we see of him.
That's what Muppets do. That's kind of the shit they're getting into all the time.
But yeah, we only see him once during it, and like you said, it takes another 30, 40 minutes or whatever until we actually get to the Muppet section of this special. If anyone wants to go watch the Perry Como Winter Show, I'm not entirely sure why you would, but there's multiple versions of this uploaded to YouTube, and we got super lucky that literally 4 or 5 days before we were recording this episode, somebody uploaded the entire thing to YouTube. So
very weird.
Yeah. And so
it's also extremely quiet.
It's extremely quiet. It's in 9 parts, and part 6 is missing.
Yeah.
And part 6 is the part with like most of the Muppet stuff. So there's a separate video that we had to also watch. We had to watch this one really piecemeal, and who knows if it'll even be uploaded by the time this episode goes up, because the nature of the internet. But there is that like 20-minute video version if you just search Perry Como Winter Show Muppets that has all the Muppet parts in one video. So that's really
it fills in all the stuff. But that video is extremely loud, so be careful.
Yes, if you're watching the playlist that we tweet, it will be jarring. But this whole thing was also sponsored by Kraft, brought to you by Kraft, which is apparently it's a thing that Perry Como was associated with Kraft for years. Like he hosted
because they've worked with the Perry Como before.
Yeah,
at the Perry Como Craft Theater, which is where they did the reindeer thing, where the reindeer are singing their little song to make it snow.
Yeah, and so they have. I think that's kind of like why. If you're asking like why did Jim Henson and the Muppets do this, it feels like just sort of like they have a relationship with Perry Como. He probably thought it was a nice idea to include some Muppets in this, but it is like interesting that they did like. He's done this winter show, I think, before, and he did it for a few years at least after this. Like, the winter show was like a yearly thing. This is the only time the Muppets are involved.
Yeah, okay.
So it's interesting that like they didn't like keep this up. Like, we're about to get into the period of Julie Andrews doing a bunch of specials that all include Muppets. So it's interesting that Perry Como didn't look at this and go like, clearly we need the Muppets involved every time we do one of these.
Yeah, and he hadn't been doing it, because I think they had already been doing it for a lot of years before this. And he wasn't doing it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Especially when the Muppets were maybe a little more popular in the earlier days of him doing this Christmas show.
Yeah.
Just all feels very random.
Yeah, I think the whole special feels very random. And like obviously it's a variety show type of thing where it's going to happen. You get these weird pieced together things, but it is like you said, the concept is Perry Como's trying to like get his childhood back and go to a small town where he grew up kind of thing. And randomly he's walking around and he keeps bumping into these Art Carney characters, and then he randomly bumps into Joey Heatherton, and Perry Como and Joey Heatherton are both playing themselves. So they're both like famous to other people in this world around them.
Did people hold hands more back then?
I have a big theory.
Okay.
I texted you about this special. That
I was trying to read that into it, and there was one particular part.
I was gonna say
I was getting that vibe.
Specifically, the end, I think, is where
theory.
My theory is that this special does not begin like this, but it does end in a way that makes me think that this weekend away at the ski chalet is maybe a swingers weekend, or some sort of sexual escapades are taking place with this large group of people, because we do see throughout the entire thing Joey Heatherton and Perry Como walking around, holding hands, hugging a lot, like being real close. And like
it doesn't help that the first time he sees her, he says, you were 14 when I met you.
Yeah.
Not cool, really. But.
Yeah, like the very first conversation they have is like, oh yeah, the last time I saw you, you were 15. Now let's hold hands and kiss
now
a
you're
little
hot.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like she's 28 at this time and he's 60. So there's that. And also one of the things I was curious about, I looked up, Perry Como, like I was like, was he just like a lifelong bachelor and he was like out there like sleeping with lots of ladies, and that was like, this is sort of like a reflection of who he was as a person? But no, he was married to the same woman for 65 years.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
They got married when they were like 17.
Right before he like got really famous, they got married.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's like throughout he's holding hands with Joey Heatherton. When they get to the ski lodge, which they just kind of like randomly go up there with a bunch of kids they find at the record store who are just like, we're going to the ski lodge, want to go? And he's like, all right.
Okay.
And they go up to stay at the ski lodge with these kids. And as they're up there, first of all, like he's walking around singing a song, and he like starts holding hands with a different lady, and then walks up to a different lady and holds her hand. And it's like
starts like smooching her.
He smooches one lady, and right after he smooches her, he grabs her by the arms and rotates her towards another man, and then they start smooching.
Yeah.
And so he like is just like, I have kissed her. Now it is your turn to kiss her.
Yeah.
And then he goes over again, and there's like this implied romance between him and Joey Heatherton. And I think what seals it is that at the end, the song that they're singing to like that causes the avalanche at the end is called "Keep It Down," because King Gosh Posh is telling them like, keep it down, shh, 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 he says repeatedly. And as he's singing, it transitions very nicely into a song. And he starts off pretty innocently. He starts singing. He's like, keep it confidential, please. Keep it down. Stifle if you have to sneeze. We don't care if you start a riot. Just be sure that the riot's quiet. And I'm like, all right. He just wants him to be quiet. And then Joey Heatherton starts singing and says, keep it low. All you consenting adults, keep it low, and I guarantee results. You'll stay warm when the nights are crisper if you hold it down to a whisper. And then says, now everybody, quiet shush. And Art Carney jumps in and says, keep it down or daddy's going to spank your tush.
Yeah. What's going on here?
The daddy's gonna spank your tush part is a weird, creepy old man thing that Art Carney feels like it just says. Like, I'm fine if like that's the one creepy thing that's said in this. I'm like, all right, that's just a weird old man being a weird old man. But when she says specifically, keep it low, all you consenting adults,
it's a very specific thing to work into a song.
Yes, and it's like less sexual, but also specific is at the end, they're just looking for rhymes, and they say, this whole place is getting so raucous, sounds just like a political caucus. And I'm like, oh boy, I don't think Joe Raposo worked on this one. But the smooching, the holding hands with random ladies, and then the all you consenting adults line, I was like, I think something's going on, or was gonna go on at this ski lodge before they got destroyed by an avalanche.
They all died for their sins. They were being too carnal.
I had that thought too, that this was like God smiting them of like, oh no, you don't get to do this.
Yeah, maybe being on top of Avalanche Mountain is like a fetish thing. It's like, it's dangerous, you know?
Yeah.
Heightens everything. So yeah, that was nasty. I didn't really understand what was going on there, and that song was disgusting. But I was actually going back to you saying you don't maybe recommend watching it. I was hanging with it pretty well until they went to Avalanche Mountain.
I think Art Carney
I thought the Art
holds
Carney
it
stuff
together.
was really funny. Yeah. That whole skit where he's like outside freezing an old man and he's playing chess, and he's like,
Yeah.
no one will play chess with me. And he tells like this, it's like actually a really beautiful monologue.
Yeah.
And then Perry Como's like, actually, you know what, old man, I will sit down and play chess with you. And then Art Carney says, great, how do you play? That was so funny.
Yeah.
But then the Muppets, that like get to the Muppets, and it's like a bunch of characters that should be played by Art Carney, and randomly he is now just Art Carney.
Yeah, he's just playing himself now.
Himself. Yeah. It doesn't make it just is like really jarring.
Yeah, and it feels like both, like Perry Como is one of those people who, we've talked about this before on the podcast, like you have your different kinds of celebrities who work with the Muppets. You have the ones who fully lean into this world of like, you are real people, I can talk to you like this. And then you have the celebrities who are looking at them as like, you are a puppet who's making me laugh. I enjoy you. And like Perry Como is definitely the latter, where he's breaking character constantly throughout the special, and he doesn't really have any good retorts to anyone. He has a few good lines, but most of the time when Art Carney says something really funny, or the Muppets say something really funny, or Joey Heatherton says something really funny, he's like, all right, let's move on. He's got
she's also funny. He's kind of dragging the whole thing down.
Yeah, like there's a moment specifically that she's being very, very funny when they first meet, and it felt a little bit like, well, you can't be funnier than Perry, so let's move on. Like, you're clearly more charming and interesting, so let's not let you be too funny. Like, she clearly is like, I'm here to do comedy. I don't know why you're here.
Also, you know what? His singing isn't very good. He sounds like he's sick or something.
It has big, like, you know who I am and that's enough energy.
Uh-huh.
Like, this is, like, look, my name's in the show. Your moms love me. Watch my thing. Also, here's some teenagers listening to Elton John. You're welcome.
Oh, that was weird, too. Just playing Rocket Man in the background.
Well, it was a brand new song. This is the year Rocket Man came out. So that was like the hip, cool thing is like they go into this record store and Rocket Man's playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I don't know. It's a very interesting thing. Like clearly he's latching on to Joey Heatherton as like, you're popular with the teens. Come along with me and make me popular with teens.
And Art Carney is here too.
Who's not popular with the teens, probably.
No.
But yeah, I think like the old chess man, like you said, is a very weird, like heartfelt thing that happens in the middle of this. It doesn't really fit in, but the joke at the end makes that work.
Yeah.
And then we have Art Carney also plays a cop that I feel like is pretty good.
He's funny too, yeah.
And then there's also an Art Carney Santa, which we already saw once before.
Uh-huh.
In the Great Santa Claus Switch, Art Carney plays Santa.
He's great at being Santa.
Yeah. That's why I was like, yeah, like, it's weird that we have multiple Muppet Art Carney Santa movies.
Yeah.
But then there's another character that Art Carney plays, who I'm pretty sure is supposed to be an ex-Nazi.
Oh, I totally forgot about him. Yeah. because he says like, when did you learn that dance or something? And Art Carney's German accented character replies, oh, when I was in hiding.
And then he's like, oh, wait, I mean in Switzerland. I was born in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Forgot about that guy.
yeah. And then he gets very angry and like orders them to do something. And I'm like,
He makes them dance. Yeah.
yeah. And it's very heavily implied that this character wearing lederhosen in this small ski town was an ex-Nazi in hiding. This special kind of feels like a weird unstuck in time type of thing because it's all in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels older than it is because it's from 1972, obviously. They were doing lots of color TV. But there's also like color pictures from this show that I've seen. Like
I saw that too, yeah.
Yeah, like there's color images of the country trio doing their thing. So I'm like, okay, was this originally aired in color and the only versions that are available now are black and white? Who knows?
But it does feel like it does feel unstuck in time. Well, okay, so first of all, the Our Place thing that you talked about, it does feel like Our Place, that the Our Place style of television like won. Because 60s television was a little bit more like rough and edgy, I guess, kind of in a way. A little bit more like anything can happen. And Our Place was like the first time that we saw in Muppet stuff where it's like really polished and kind of like gratingly sweet and like that like 70s like choir of people singing kind of annoying song sort of thing.
And like it felt like against their will almost. Like
That is also true, yeah.
Felt a little culty.
It's a bunch of people that like look like they're cooler than the thing that they're doing.
Yes.
And you can just put yourself in like these people who are about our age's shoes. And it's like, well, I guess I got to go today and sing Christmas songs with Perry Como. And that's going to suck. But then I can smoke a bunch of weed and go to a swinger party or whatever I do. But they might not even be the ones swinging. It might be Perry Como age people who are swinging. I have no idea. I don't know much about that, that whole thing. But it does feel like a weird mishmash of stuff like Perry Como. This one does really feel like, we've talked about Ed Sullivan like clinging to the Muppets and stuff, but this one you can like smell the Perry Como desperation to just try to latch on to as many cool things as he possibly can.
Yeah, it's definitely like that hello fellow kids type of thing of just like, you know me, I'm the cool dad who hangs out with Joey Heatherton.
But God bless him, he sings some great Christmas songs.
Yeah,
so.
And I think there's like moments in this again where right before we meet the chess man, like Perry Como has a weird sad song that he sings all by himself where he's like strolling around town at night and sort of like it seems like maybe a relationship has gone sour and he wants to come home but he's not sure that the door is going to be open for him kind of song. And it's, I don't know, it's that weird mishmash of like, okay, there's some heart here, but that doesn't go anywhere. And then you have this whole story of just like randomly being like, okay, teens, I'll go hang out with you at a ski chalet after meeting you at a record store. And again, I'm not like a lot of these like weird variety shows from the 60s, 70s, like, yeah, they're not going to be the most well-written things that exist out there. So I don't expect too much of them, but there are things that just like about this specifically that just felt like it was like, hey, Perry Como, you got an hour to fill? He's like, I'll think of something.
And also, they only sing like one Christmas song in the whole damn thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of other songs that just like, and I guess it's like the winter show. It's not really like the Christmas show, but he's the Christmas man.
Yeah, come on. Maybe the weirdest part of this whole Christmas special is how much it feels like one of the sweaty, like, why are the Muppets in this? Or like, what is going on here? Christmas specials of today? Or like, when Muppets pop up today, it kind of has a similar feeling. Of
when it's like
well,
Pentatonics featuring the Muppets. And you're just like,
exactly.
But why though?
Yeah.
Is there a reason? Or did you just say like, well, we have the Muppets. What do we do with them?
Yeah. Miss Piggy's in this for 4 minutes for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not
talking to Kristen Bell.
I'm not looking forward to that era of our Muppet watching. Is just when they have no idea what to do with these characters other than like bank on their nostalgia.
But that's kind of where we're at now with them, like in our watch through.
Yeah,
which is very, very interesting.
Yeah, we're obviously gearing up towards the pilots and eventually for the Muppet Show coming in a few years here, but. Yeah, this 72 to 74 era is a dry one, where I think there's a similar thing that happens. I just finished rereading the Brian J. Jones biography, and it feels like there's a similar thing that happens after the Muppet Show and after like Dark Crystal and Labyrinth, where like people love the Muppet Show, and then Dark Crystal and Labyrinth don't get that well received critically. And so it's like, okay, what is Jim Henson now? What are the Muppets now? Because like you don't see a lot of like traditional Muppet content during that time. And I feel like this is another one of those transitional periods where they're trying to figure out like, okay, we're coming out of that fairy tale time. We still would like to do a show of some kind, but we haven't yet figured that out.
I guess I was expecting there to be like a traceable upward arc of them, like they're getting more and more and more and more popular, and now they have a TV show, but it's almost like they were not forgotten, but they just weren't important. And then it was like all of a sudden this huge Muppet Show happens.
Yeah, I'm curious to see too how things like the Julie Andrews specials help, because I know specifically next week we'll be talking about the Julie Andrews Hour, which is the first one. And in that, not only do Muppets appear like they do in this, but they also have a segment where Julie Andrews is just like talking to Jim Henson about the Muppets in sort of like a Dick Cavett interview type of way. And so it's clear that like she is interested in the Muppets and interested in like pushing them out there into the mainstream and talking about them. So I think like things like that and things like these variety shows can be helpful for keeping the Muppets in the mainstream, but it kind of depends on how they're used. Because I think you watch this Perry Como Christmas special and you don't come away from this feeling any better about the Muppets maybe than you went in. I don't know how you feel about the Muppets being used in this way.
I guess I just came away from this feeling nothing particularly one way or the other for the Muppets. I wouldn't even, maybe if I had been watching this in the 70s, I maybe wouldn't have even thought like, oh, this is like a Jim Henson thing. Like it feels a little off-brand to me, I guess. Like a little knockoffy or something.
Yeah, like they could have had anybody sort of do these Muppets. Like I feel like the most, the closest you get to feeling like there's some good Jim Henson energy coming through is you get Gosh Posh yelling at Art Carney about ringing the bell, not banging the bell.
That was fun.
And then you also get when they're singing the Keep It Down song at the end. Like you can tell that the Muppets go a little bit more unhinged and start screaming and stuff, and you're just like, okay, here's this Muppet energy. But like because that Muppet energy is not carrying throughout, like there's not that chaotic thing carrying out throughout the rest of it. I think that's largely I think you can blame Perry Como for that, because I think Art Carney and Joey Heatherton and the Muppets all try to bring a little bit more chaotic energy to it, but he quickly like stamps it down of like, no, I won't have that on my special.
Yeah, he's like Sam Eagle.
Yeah, a little bit.
He doesn't like weirdos.
But you don't let Sam Eagle be the star of the show.
No. But taken by itself, the Country Trio performance, I think, is actually really good. Like, the puppeteering on that is really good.
Oh, yeah. Frank Oz especially. Like, I think he has a little fun joke where they get to smack him in the face. The Country Trio will come back as well across some other things. They'll be on the Dick Cavett show in 1973, and then I believe they show up on the Muppet Show, or maybe just in the Valentine show. I don't remember.
I think they pop up in the Muppet Show quite a bit.
I think they're in the background a lot. But yeah, it's my biggest takeaway after watching this was, if I'm gonna pick an Art Carney Santa Muppet thing to watch, it's not gonna be this one.
Definitely not.
And also, Kraft makes caramels? Because there's a commercial in this for Kraft caramels.
Yeah.
And it's just like, one, Kraft apparently made everything back in the day, not just mac and cheese. But yeah, Kraft caramels seem to be like a very nice delicacy that you'd give your grandchild while you're fishing.
Yeah. I liked that all the commercials are Kraft commercials. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes it seem like Kraft is the only product you should buy, no matter what you want to eat for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Kraft is there for you.
The fact that this had commercials in it went a pretty long way in making it more enjoyable to me.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff.
No, I love when we're able to find those that have the era is built in, so you get a little bit more of that context of like what else was going on in the world around
Everyone
this
is
time.
eating Kraft foods.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Oh, another thing, when I was looking up other stuff that happened in 1972, Watergate began this year. The Godfather came out. David Bowie is Ziggy Stardust currently. And Pong came out.
Oh,
the video
hey.
game Pong, the first commercially successful video game, which seems important to know going forward.
Before we get to our Muppet of the Week segment, I do want to touch again on the Electric Company and the Flip Wilson Show appearance. The Electric Company, clearly you can tell from this clip that we watched with Big Bird and Fargo North that this is skewed towards the slightly older kids because, like, the reading comprehension and, like, capital letters and periods and what that all means, like, is a little bit beyond what Sesame Street tries to teach. So it was interesting to see an example of that.
The jokes are more sophisticated, too, in their own way.
Yeah, I mean, even the idea of naming him Fargo North Decoder
went over my head.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I guess how did this make you want to rush out and watch more Electric Company?
It was kind of cute. I liked it. It had like a Batman 60s Batman TV show vibe to it that I liked. Is this the only time that there was a Sesame Street Electric Company crossover?
No,
or?
we get 2 or 3 more. I think we get an Oscar. I think we get a Grover, maybe. And there's also a thing that unfortunately I have not been able to track down yet, but I would love to find. There's a primetime special called Out to Lunch that airs in 1974, and it's a mixture of Sesame Street and Electric Company like characters all coming together for this special. And then it's also got Carol Burnett, Elliot Gould, Barbara Eden, like a bunch of people in this thing. And so yeah, I think it's one of those things that doesn't seem to exist anywhere, unfortunately, but is more evidence that, like, early on at least, like, the CTW world was pretty small of, like, the Muppets can go across the 2 shows.
That sounds fun. I would like to watch that.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of good, like, images from it that show, like, it looks like a really fun special, and I just cannot find it anywhere to watch. So, unfortunately, I don't know that we're going to be able to watch it, but if we can track it down, we will definitely do an episode on Out to Lunch.
The Bert and Ernie on Flip Wilson. I love Flip Wilson with Muppets, and this still continues that streak. He's very charming with them. They have great comedic timing together. They like riff off of him, and he riffs off of them. Feels great. Feels like Jimmy in the old Jimmy Dean days to me still.
Yeah, he's got that natural chemistry that we talked about that Perry Como maybe doesn't have as much of, where he just, like, fully embraces this, like, I am doing a weird thing with weird puppets. Let's go.
I like that they kind of bust on him, too. Bert and Ernie kind of, like, make fun of him a little bit every now and then, like, when he screws up honking the horn, and they're kind of like, hey, come on. And you can tell that they're, like, going off script and making fun of him.
It's like those moments that you see in documentaries like Street Gang and stuff, where it's, like, those moments in between the Sesame Street, like, educational moments where they get to have a little bit more fun and, like, go off script. Like, they get to do that when it's shows like Dick Cavett or Flip Wilson or whatever. But speaking of Bert and Ernie, this week's Muppet of the Week is Ernie. A lot of this information is overlap, so I'm not going to repeat a lot of the stuff I said in the Bert and Ernie episode. So if you want to hear...
They're pretty inseparable.
Yeah.
Where one goes, so does the other.
Yes, and I think that's... If you want to hear us talk more about, like, Bert and Ernie's potential relationship / not relationship / roommate situation, you can go listen to the episode where we talked about Bert. But yeah, Ernie himself, he's obviously orange, horizontal striped shirt, he's got the opposition because, like, Bert's the vertical shirt guy. He loves baths and is rubber ducky. We all know this about him. As we mentioned before, he's one of the few Muppets you see both clothed and unclothed.
And shirtless.
Yes. Which, after going back and watching the 2015 ABC Muppets series, there are definitely episodes of that where, like, Rizzo and Pepe are, like, getting in a hot tub and stuff. So it seems...
That's true. I was just thinking Pepe, as you were starting to say that. Pepe takes his shirt off all the time, I think.
Yeah, and if we're talking about, like, the most sexual, flirtatious Muppets, I know, like, we previously said Gonzo, but Pepe is pretty high up on that list.
He does not, he is explicitly sexual. Yes. Gonzo is kind of a little bit more hidden. But.
Yeah. So the shirt off, shirt on thing weirded me out less when I, like, rewatched that series, but
yeah,
it's still a little weird.
Ernie's just so broad chested. There's so much
There's
orange
also, like,
fabric
no
in your
texture.
face.
Like Pepe, you've got, like, that furry kind of weird texture going on.
They should have put nipples on him or something.
Yeah.
Break it up a little
That
bit.
would make it better. The only Muppet with nipples.
Oh my! There's got to be a cow Muppet with udders. That's probably the next closest thing.
Yeah, I don't want to Google, do any Muppets have nipples? But I'm also curious,
I'll do it while you keep telling us
All right, yeah.
about him.
You do the deep dive research here. Early on, Ernie looked a little bit different. He was closer to like the Sam and Friends character Moldy Hay that we talked about before. And he also sounded a lot like Ralph in the first pilot episode.
Yeah.
But that quickly changed very quickly. He went on to sound more like Kermit than Ralph.
There is a Muppet Wiki page called Boob Jokes.
All right.
So that's where I'm at right now. Continue.
Ernie was designed by Jim Henson and built by Don Saleen. Much like a lot of other Muppets, you look at the sketches and there's a sketch that vaguely looks like Ernie. And then you're like, oh yeah, Don Saleen worked his magic and made that into a viable puppet. At the beginning, Jim Henson was the performer behind Ernie from 1969 until 1990. As we've talked about, it's kind of amazing that Jim Henson, throughout everything else he was doing in his life, still continued to do Sesame Street performances until he died. And at a certain point, they were down to doing it like 1 week a year. They would like show up and do some stuff, or like 1 week a month or something like that. I don't remember. It was like a very small amount of time that they would go and film everything they needed to film for that season of Sesame Street. But once Jim Henson died in 1990, at first there were some early internet rumors back when the internet was just really doing anything. And rumors began to appear that Ernie was going to be killed off to teach kids about death.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so there was people suggesting things that Ernie was going to die with a disease or in a traffic accident. Or, so these rumors became really widespread, and people like made hats that said like "Save Ernie" and all this stuff. And but it turns out that was just completely fabricated misinformation from the early internet, and the producers never had any plans to kill off Ernie at all.
That doesn't even make sense, because they would want to replay those old clips over and over and over again like they had been for the previous 30 years or whatever.
And that's exactly what actually happened for a few years, is there was no new Ernie footage made or shown for a few years while they figured out what they were going to do. And eventually Steve Whitmire, who also took over Kermit, took over Ernie. And he played Ernie. There's mixed facts about this of like what the actual dates here. He is credited from 1993 to 2014 as playing Ernie. And then Billy Barkhurst took over from 2014 through 2017. And then Peter Linz is now playing Ernie, who also does like Walter from the Muppets.
I think it's really weird that they still have an overlap between Muppet performers and Sesame Street Muppet performers, that they don't hire their own stable of different people who don't cross over into Muppet stuff.
I mean, we talked about that before with like, for Big Bird, they wanted to make sure they had somebody who could be there all the time.
Yeah.
And so they had Carol Spinney be like exclusively a Sesame Street like performer. But then they still do this where they had like Steve Whitmire and Peter Linz and these people who work for both companies.
Yeah. It seems even harder now than ever to have people cross over, because it's like Disney and not Disney.
Well, and you also have like based on two different coasts. And I think, I mean, you get a lot of this, I think, with, I'm assuming it's like they're looking at, okay, who's the best puppeteers we have out there in the world? Obviously, that's people doing the Muppets. Let's get them for as many things as possible. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that they don't try to build that out and try to split that up. But I don't know, like if there's a good reason behind it, other than just like these are the best people for the job. But yeah, any update on the nipple research?
There are no Muppets with nipples that I could find.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's a missed opportunity. As I think we mentioned in the Bert episode, Ernie was like one of the very first Muppets on Sesame Street. In the pilot episode, Bert and Ernie are there. They were also in that little special that they were talking about, like to hype up Sesame Street. Like it was very clear early on they existed even before Big Bird and Oscar existed to be the main Muppets featured on Sesame Street. So they've been there since day one.
Much more fully fleshed out than those other two also.
Yeah, they get their own like life. They have their own little interests and everything. But they, it's nice that they've also like sort of kept them around, because like a lot of characters have been traded in and out on Sesame Street through the 50 freaking years that they've been doing that show. But it is nice that they've like pretty much stayed the same and also stayed a big part of the show ever since the beginning. As far as a family for Ernie goes, there's a handful of people who get mentioned, but far less than a lot of other Sesame Street Muppets have. He has a cousin, Ernestine, and then he has an uncle named Ornismo, who is his second cousin's uncle. And he looks a lot like Ernie. Apparently, Uncle Ernissimo is like a music teacher or something.
Oh, okay.
So it's a one-off sort of character thing. But yeah, that's like kind of the extent of actually like on-screen family members for Ernie that we get. So surprisingly, it seems like Ernie is maybe one of the Muppets on Sesame Street that we don't get as much backstory in, even though he's around a lot.
He seems like an open book too, but we know way more about Bert's life than Ernie's life.
And because Bert has like the siblings and all that stuff, and like we just don't get to know that much about Ernie. But I think one of the more like famous plot lines, stories, sketches that ever happened on Sesame Street was the I think it's a Christmas special where Bert and Ernie do the whole thing where it's like, oh, I want to get you a holder for your rubber ducky, and Ernie's like, oh, but I wanted to get you a box for your paperclip collection. And in order to
Gift
afford
of the Magi situation,
right? In order to afford the gifts for each other, Ernie trades his rubber ducky for the box for Bert, and Bert trades his paperclip collection for the tray for the rubber ducky. Which, I mean, how much is a paperclip collection really worth? But
one tray, I suppose.
I guess. Right. But the rubber ducky feels like it's worth way more than paper clips.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously Ernie's not going anywhere. He's going to be around forever. He's still around doing his thing.
Yeah.
So we're not getting rid of Ernie anytime soon. And they're one of the most popular like characters that do lots of things to promote Sesame Street outside of the actual show. Like they are one of the few pairs of characters who appear even on the international series of like the German Sesame Street and all these things. And they're just everywhere. Like they're just as popular as Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch, and maybe not Elmo, but close. Do you have any strong feelings about Ernie? I know we like talked about Bert and Ernie, I think, as a group previously, but
Ernie on his own, I have less strong feelings for Ernie on his own than Bert on his own. They're obviously a unit, but Bert has a stronger personality. But Ernie's got that laugh, which is fun to do.
I think
it's great.
He's got that going for him. And he's got the bath thing. I think he's got strong personality traits that people remember, but I don't know if that like transitions over to like a rich character.
Right. Interesting. I never really thought about this. Who is Ernie?
Yeah, overall, like again, I like Bert and Ernie as a duo, but Ernie on his own has never really registered with me as like top tier favorite Muppet. I have a picture of when I was a little kid of holding an Ernie doll. So obviously when I was like 2, I was all right with him.
If I had to meet one or the other, I think I'd be way more excited to meet Bert. So maybe that says everything that needs to be said.
But outside of the light Muppet week we had a couple weeks here. I'm guessing you had time to watch some non-Muppet things or consume some non-Muppet stuff. What'd you get?
Yeah.
What'd you watch?
Okay, so I have a bunch of stuff. Here's one. I watched Mayor from Easttown. You know that show?
I know of it because everyone online talks about it a lot, but I have not watched it.
That's what I saw it on Twitter all the time, and I was like, oh, this show must be good. It kind of stunk, I thought.
Oh.
I wasn't a big fan of it. Also, I watched the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978.
The Donald Sutherland one?
Yeah.
The one where that
Have you ever seen
face?
That?
No, I've just seen his reaction shot a lot where it like zooms in on his face all freaked out.
Yeah. That movie kicked ass. I would highly recommend that movie. It's also secretly a Jeff Goldblum movie, which I feel like you don't know until you turn it on and then Jeff Goldblum's name pops up and you're like, oh, he must pop up for a second. He's like this one of the like secondary characters of the film. He's in like the whole thing. It's from the 70s, so I should hate it because I hate every 70s movie, but it's quite good. And then I also watched How to Succeed at Business Without Actually Trying, which is a 60s musical starring Bert from Mad Men.
Oh.
And that's why I watched it, because I've read a lot about how it's kind of like, spiritually, it's in the same vein as Mad Men. And it's a musical making fun of like office culture. And it feels extremely Mad Men-y, and there's a part where he's like Bert, the character Bert plays is a window washer who finds this book that like basically gives him the key to accelerating up the corporate ladder of the business he works for extremely fast. So in like a week he's like a junior executive. But when he becomes a junior executive, he gets this office that looks exactly like the office that Bert has in Mad Men, with like weird Japanese stuff everywhere.
Yeah.
So it feels like his kind of like his character's like origin story almost.
Huh.
And apparently that guy was like a Broadway star, which I did not know.
I would not have guessed that. I guess he does. I think doesn't he have like a weird singing, dancing episode in Mad Men?
He sings and dances after spoiler, his character dies in one of the last seasons of Mad Men. He shows up to Dawn as a ghost.
That's right.
And does a little dance routine, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And he's really good in this, and he looks exactly like Mark Hamill too, which is very strange.
Weird.
And he just has an extremely menacing air. It's like a very not normal, but like it's a very 60s musical, except he just looks like a little like Joker goblin who's like smiling and doing evil deeds the whole time. And I really liked it a lot.
Huh.
It was fun. I'd recommend it if you're a Mad Men fan. Check it out. There's some stuff there to be learned from it, I think.
I was gonna say, I think the most I know about that play is that Daniel Radcliffe was in it a few years ago.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Because
Yeah.
they both have a very similar energy of like kind of like boyish, except they have the crazy eyes.
You need a boyish, crazy-eyed gentleman to play this character.
Yeah. How about you? Do you watch anything?
Yeah. First, I've been reading. I
forgot about reading.
Yeah, there's books. I've been really into a few comic series lately, which are kind of books.
Okay.
Well, I realized I built this up of like I've been reading books, and then I'm like,
now you got my attention again.
The comic books. But I've been reading right now. There's a big like comic event happening in the Star Wars world where they're doing the War of the Bounty Hunters,
Right.
where there's like these 4 or 5 different comic stories all coming together, and that's pretty good so far. They've only released 1 issue as of recording this, but also I like accidentally got really into this new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series called The Last Ronin. That is written by the original like creators of Ninja Turtles.
Is that new?
Yeah, well, there's like 3 issues out at this point, but they're like big chunky issues, and they come out every couple months instead of like once a week, and it's very good. I would like, if you're a Ninja Turtles fan and you like sort of post-apocalyptic kind of stories, I would say don't read too much about it, because there's some good reveals in there of like what exactly is going on and why this story is interesting. So I would recommend picking up the first issue at least, and if you like it, it just keeps getting better. But yes, it's a very interesting take on the Ninja Turtles. Yeah, it's this first thing that these like the original creators have done together, because they didn't talk for years and years and years.
Yeah, there's some shit going down.
Yeah, and they were brought back together and like decided to do this thing, and it's great.
Oh, that's really cool. I really liked the comic continuity that's going on now, that has been going on for like 15 years at this point or something. It's been a long and I'd like to get back into it, but there was like a point where there were like 6 different continuing series at one time.
Yeah. Well, then they were like fighting with Batman, and they were hanging out with the Power Rangers.
Yeah. I knew if I didn't get out of it, I would be spending a small fortune on Ninja Turtle books. But
well, I could say the Last Ronin ones, one, they're really good, and there's not a ton of them. So it is a nice little thing to dip into and just check out this like one singular story. It is sort of like, the Dark Knight Returns of the Ninja Turtles. Like, it's definitely that sort of vibe. Is good. Check it out. But I'm also, we're starting a rewatch of the MCU.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
So we just watched Thor and Captain America. So we're still near the beginning. But we're trying to get through like all of that. Maybe not by the time Black Widow is out, but trying to get through them just after watching WandaVision and Falcon the Winter Soldier. It felt like it was time to go back and watch some of them. And then there's 1 or 2 I haven't seen, and then my wife hasn't seen like 5 or 6 of them.
Wow, I'm surprised you haven't seen some of them.
I think Doctor Strange is the only one I haven't seen.
Oh, that's a weird one to not see also.
I didn't care about it when it came out in theaters.
Yeah.
And I just didn't care enough to like seek it out later.
Yeah, that feels like one kind of like Thor, where you don't really have to care about the first one because the Sam Raimi one, I'm sure, will be much better and weirder and will reinvent the character to some degree.
Well, and it's like similar to like I enjoy the Ant-Man movie, but like you don't need to have seen Ant-Man to really see the Avengers movies and understand them.
Yeah.
Second one and Endgame tie together better, but for some reason Doctor Strange just never looked appealing to me, and I had heard from people that it didn't really matter if you saw it or not. So all you really need to know is like Doctor Strange is a character that exists. That's all you need.
I'm interested to, because we just got done pretty recently with the watch through too. I'm interested in your reappraisal of some of them because
I
didn't like ones that I liked and liked ones I didn't like. Definitely,
I'm sort of having a similar experience where like I remember not liking Thor a lot, but I sort of enjoyed it this time. Like I liked it a lot more than I remembered liking it.
It was fun. It was more goofy than I had remembered it being.
I feel like I remembered it as like Thor being more off-putting of a character, and he is obviously for parts of it. He's a jerk to people, but like that turn happens a lot quicker than I thought it did.
He turns sweet really fast.
I think early on, these early Marvel movies, my whole thing is just like watching them in 2021 and realizing like, oh, the women in these movies are written very, very poorly.
Yeah.
And
then when it gets to Joss Whedon's turn, he just like writes out every female character from all of them. And
but even like these early ones, like you have like, I've noticed like there's like this trend of like introducing these women who are super competent in 99% of the scenes, but the moment they are around our hero, they become like blubbering messes who can't handle anything. Like Pepper Potts is the perfect example of like she runs the entire Stark company in Tony's absence and all this stuff, but the moment Tony's like in trouble, she can't handle anything and she freaks out. And it's also like the same thing happens with Jane Foster in Thor, where it's like very competent, like whatever astrophysicists, whatever. And then the moment Thor is introduced, they're just like immediately in love.
Well, he's a big old hunk. Come on.
Yeah, but he's also like not very smart, and he also is super rude.
Okay. First of all, I think in that movie they do say that he would be smarter than like any of their physicists, right? Because he's from space and he knows like everything about space. So he is smart. Like he's just dumb for being from an advanced alien
Earth
civilization. Dumb. He's just Earth dumb. I didn't have a second of all. I don't know why I said first of all. But also, second of all, they have a great chemistry together. I totally believe that those... I think they do. I totally believe that those two would be in love.
I don't buy it. I think there's lots of unearned romance in early Marvel movies. I think Pepper Potts...
I think they're cute.
I think Pepper Potts and Tony kissing in Iron Man 2 makes no sense.
Their whole thing doesn't make any sense to me either.
I think later on, it's like that thing, like in later Marvel movies, it becomes better.
They kind of retcon it into making sense.
Well, they just they make it seem like they're more on equal ground in a lot of ways. Yeah. But like early on, he just seems like a super shitty boss. And then is like
creeping on her a little bit.
You look attractive in that dress. Now let's kiss.
I do really like the Iron Man movies though. That is kind of came away from the rewatch being like, if it was just the trilogy of Iron Man movies, I think like they kind of stand on their own as pretty good movies, even beyond just being pretty good superhero movies.
We haven't got to the third one yet, and I've only seen that one once when it first came out, so I don't really have a strong opinion on that one. The second one I remembered liking more than I ended up liking it on this rewatch. Mickey Rourke's character didn't do it for me this time.
I've always liked the second one quite a bit, and people have always not liked it, but like
I think there's just some things left on the table in Iron Man 2 that should have been further explored, and there's just specifically, I guess, spoilers for like 10-year-old movies.
Maybe even older than 10 years old.
That one is, that was like 2000. I think that's like 2010. But that one, just for me, I think Marvel had a villain problem early on, where like certain movies had really strong villains, and other ones were just like, I don't know, this random guy who kind of knew your dad. And that one's definitely feels more like in the first movie they have Obadiah, who worked with his dad, was close with Tony, all this stuff, had a personal vendetta sort of thing. And then this one is like close to that, where it's like this guy's dad was screwed over by your dad, but they only address that in like 2 lines in the entire movie. And we don't really have to deal with that whole idea that's interesting of like, this guy could have been the Tony Stark, but he just didn't get that opportunity.
Yeah, they don't delve much into how his life was ruined by it, really.
Right, and so you don't necessarily have that thing where you're like, oh, I understand the villain and why he's upset and all this stuff that you need to sort of make a villain more interesting. And then you have Mickey Rourke doing a weird Russian accent. And so,
I do like Justin Hammer, though. I think
he's
a good bad guy.
Sam Rockwell is like the other version of a Tony Stark, of like the one who actually isn't that successful, is very interesting.
And he's really fun in that movie, I think, yeah.
I was looking up, I was like wondering, did Sam Rockwell ever do anything with the Muppets? Because I would like to see that. The closest he comes is that he appears as a teenage thug in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
So that's close.
Handing out cigarettes.
And then he is in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which, again, was a Creature Shop movie. So the closest he comes to working with Muppets is being in some Creature Shop films. But I feel like he's somebody who would like take the working with a Muppet very seriously.
He could be the one person in a movie full of Muppets, like Muppet Christmas Carol.
Oh man, imagine him. Not that like Chris Cooper didn't do a good job, but imagine him as the Chris Cooper role in the Muppets movie.
He could just be Justin Hammer again.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Then the Muppets are in the MCU.
I mean, they've probably been referenced in some Marvel movie.
Probably.
So I think it's probably too late for them to become part of that. But I did make that push on Twitter this week that Muppet Babies was produced by Marvel. So put the Muppet Babies in the MCU is what I'm saying.
Disney just has to get a little bit more desperate, and then they'll start doing crossovers with like Star Wars and the Muppets and stuff.
Yeah. Oh boy. That's going to be...
It's coming. You know it's coming.
That's the thing is like, I feel like it is. I feel like we're like 20 years from that though.
Yeah, they tanked Star Wars. The only thing that's going to bring Star Wars back is the Millennium Falcon coming through Doctor Strange's portal. You know?
Or you have the Guardians of the Galaxy fighting Han Solo.
Yes. And the Rocket's like, who's this big furry guy?
Oh, we're going to have Groot and Chewbacca having a conversation.
Fuck yeah, that sounds cool, actually.
This is just that scene from Parks and Rec where Patton Oswalt does his filibuster thing where he just talks.
But he was right.
That's what we need. If only he had included Muppets in that story.
No, I don't think it's what we need. I think it'll bring about the end of Western civilization. But he was still right. Well, anyway, this is our Muppet podcast.
Yeah. For the last 20 minutes, it's been a Marvel podcast, pretty much.
Whoops.
Well, next week we'll be watching some more Muppet stuff. We've got the Julie Andrews Hour, as well as a little appearance in a special called Keep US Beautiful.
Yeah, I'm very curious about what this is. I've seen it on the spreadsheet for a while, but I haven't looked into it anymore.
Yeah, it's just like basically a little bit of like, yay, take care of the earth, you jerks. What's nice is that they created some original Muppets for it. It's not like Kermit saying, hey, keep things green, guys.
It's also good that it solved pollution and global warming.
It did, true.
Stuff, so.
Little known fact, in 1973, they solved...
Thank you, Muppets.
Yeah. But yes, we will be diving into 1973, the first half of 1973 next time. And if you want to watch that, we'll tweet it out at Kermitment Pod. We want to thank our friend Tuna for creating the music for this podcast and Cassie Wilson for singing our theme song. You can email us if you'd like at mail@kermitment.com. That's just if you have any Muppet memories you'd like to share with us, or if you find any of these things that we can't track down, like that Electric Company Sesame Street special. If you got it, please share with us.
I think one place that it just occurred to me, Arden on Twitter asked their mom to go through old VHSs that they took from the Disney Channel, or just like stuff you taped off a TV. Asking your parents to look at their old tapes is a great place to find rare stuff that's probably lost forever. Somebody out there's parents have a tape with something thought to be lost forever. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, because I think that's how the Perry Como special looks like it was saved from an old VHS tape.
Yeah, it has the display on it the whole time.
Yeah, so I think that's... Ask your parents about the Muppets and if they have any Muppet things in the attic. Maybe your parents were super into the Muppets and they're like, oh, I never thought you'd ask. I have crates and crates of old Muppet VHSs that I never threw out. Or again, if you're related to Jimmy Dean and you have all those old Jimmy Dean episodes, please let us know. Are you Elliot Gould's children and you have his special? Let us know. Email us if you happen to find any of those old dusty VHSs and also know how to transfer them and send them to us. There's a lot of work that we're expecting from you. But if you happen to find those, email us, mail@kermitment.com, or you can tweet and follow me at Matthew Gatos.
And I'm at Slam Schultz.
And as always, keep believing.
Keep pretending.